Hi, folks. Welcome to Crisco's Corner. Netanyahu says 9 chilling words as Iran's president vows to completely destroy Israel. Iran's military attack on Saturday was the first time the country ever launched a direct attack from its own soil on Israel. And let me tell you what Netanyahu said. Israel will do whatever it needs to defend itself. The Prime Minister of Israel, Netanyahu, said in a statement. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu on Wednesday left no doubt in a statement regarding what his Jewish country might do should current tensions with Iran escalate further. And I'll say this again because there's a reason why this is so chilling. Israel will do whatever it needs to defend itself, Netanyahu said in a statement. Now, you have to remind yourself, Israel has nukes. And after what happened in the late 1930s through the end of World War II, and even after that for that matter, the two major wars with the Arab states and Israel, I think there was 2 of them, might have been 3, I don't recall, where Israel kicked all their asses, and they're not going to go down. They're not going to be obliterated and destroyed. They're people like they were in Europe during World War II. It's that simple. They'll fight to the last person, the last woman, the last man. I say women and men because military service is mandatory in Israel for men and women. These people are serious about defending themselves. Don't think for a minute that they won't agonize over the fact that they might use a nuke. It'll be a last resort. There's no question. They're not barbarians. But the fact of the matter is, if they see they're going to be overrun and they see they're going to be destroyed, they will use them. That's just my opinion. I can tell from the rhetoric, they don't want to, but they will. The comment came after separate meetings with British Foreign Secretary David Cameron, big deal, Germany's Foreign Minister Alania Barak, in Israel on Wednesday, another big deal. Who cares? It's the British Foreign Office and the former Prime Minister in Britain that stopped the peace negotiations between Russia and Ukraine. So frankly, they can just kiss my ass. During which the ministers discussed actions should pursue to retaliate for Iran's unprecedented direct attack over the weekend from Iranian soil. There's no proxy war here. They have all sorts of suggestions and advice. I appreciate that, but I want to make clear our decisions we will make ourselves. Yeah, I can see not wanting to start World War III. That's a very good goal. I'm not a warmonger, but the fact of the matter is, tensions are running high. Now, are the European NATO countries, in this case Britain and Germany, just trying to avoid a major conflict that might turn into a nuclear war? Yeah, maybe, but I don't have much faith in any of their governments, frankly. In fact, I don't have any faith in any of their governments. During the meeting, Baerbock said escalation would serve no one, not Israel's security, not the many dozens of hostages still in the hands of Hamas, not suffering the population of Gaza, not the many people in Iran who themselves suffering under the regime, and not the third countries in the region who simply want to live in peace. Yeah, well, you know what? I hate to say this, but this is just like World War II. When I think it's like 8-10 times as many German civilians died in World War II than British civilians. It's just the way war is. When your government goes to war with you, unfortunately, the people who live in that country have to pay the price sometimes. And it's horrible. Absolutely horrible. But there's some old timers in Israel, and they see the foreign minister of Germany, now reunited, of course, where East and West is now the same, standing there with the Israeli prime minister. Not to be a dick or anything, but it probably doesn't bring a lot of confidence. We'll just leave it at that. Netanyahu comment also comes just hours after Iran's president has vowed to completely destroy Israel should it perceive even the tiniest invasion of its country. Now, there was supposedly almost 300 now, from what I gather, drones and ballistic missiles fired at Israel, and 1% or less got through. So we'll just do the simple math here and say 3 got through. My understanding is a young girl was injured, but not seriously, thankfully. And that was it. And retaliation for, I believe it was in Damascus, Syria, there's a military building next to the Iranian embassy that was headquarters for basically Syria. It's a proxy war, and Iran is running it through their military on the embassy, and the building next to the embassy was destroyed, killing, I believe, 12 people and a couple of really high-ranking Iranian military generals. Now, that 300 missile shot was in retaliation for that. It's the president of Iran vowed a massive and harsh response to potential Israel retaliation during his speech Wednesday at the annual army parade. Well, of course he's going to say that. Iran launched hundreds of missiles and drones at Israel on Saturday in response to an apparent strike in Iran's embassy, like I explained, that killed 12 people, including 2 Iranian generals. Iran blames Israel attack, although Israel has not claimed any involvement. The Iranian president said Saturday attack was a limited one, but as nothing would remain from the Zionist regime should it escalate the current situation, the official IRNA news agency reported. Now, I've heard on several different radio shows at night on AM channels that a lot of the missiles, I'm not sure about the drones, but the ballistic missiles that were fired had a malfunction. Now, I don't know how many. It can't be confirmed. Of course, Iran would never admit it because that would look like weakness, or their ballistic missile system sucks if they're not as powerful as they make out. But the fact of the matter is, a lot of them didn't launch. And less than 3 out of 300 drones and missiles actually got to Israeli soil and caused minimal damage at best. So he warned of a tiniest nation by Israel that would bring a massive and harsh response. Sending 300 drones and ballistic missiles, that's a pretty massive and harsh response. Israel and Iran have waged a shadow war for decades, with the war coming to a head over the past few months as Iran supports Hamas, of course, who carried out the deadliest terror attack in Israeli history on October 7th. They haven't seen things like that since the ghettos in Poland and around Europe during World War II, or just prior to World War II. On Saturday, Israel, with the help of the U.S., the UK, neighboring Jordan, and other nations, successfully intercepted nearly every missile and drone that Iran launched. Israel posted a 99% success rate, though the use of its Iron Dome and David Sling systems. Well, they left out one very important thing. It had to go a long, long ways from Iran to Israel, and it had to go over most of it was Jordanian, the Kingdom of Jordan's territory. And my understanding is the vast majority of drones and missiles were intercepted over Jordanian soil. So the Jordanians, you have to give them a lot of credit. And I understand Saudi Arabia helped, at least in part. Israel said it will respond, although it has not provided additional details on how or when. Its allies have urged any retaliation to be strikes in areas that would not result in human casualties, and thus likely avoiding further escalation. Saturday's attack was the first direct Iran military attack on Israel. Now, I have no problem with Israel hitting military targets in Iran. They're not, even though they are pieces of crap, they're not lining all their military behind civilians like Hamas does in Gaza. So if they did go after military territories, facilities, the civilian casualties would be extremely small, even though they would, probably lie and say it was a lot more. So we're going to have to see. The weapons that Israel has seems to be a lot more sophisticated than the weapons Iran had. And I used the example of what happened on the Iranian attack Saturday. But they will defend themselves no matter what it takes. And like I said, I don't want to be an alarmist, but Israel has nukes. And they will use them if they have to. What will probably happen if things get really out of control in a ground war, we'll say, or a ballistic missile war or drone war, and Israel's losing badly, I personally believe that NATO troops, or they'll send arms from the European countries, and the U.S. will have to defend Israel. Joe Biden could care less about Israel, frankly. He's just trying to appease the progressive anti-Semites in his own party, who he's losing by helping Israel. So he's trying to do it both ways. Trying to chastise Netanyahu, plus at the same time give him support. So, the guy's a scumbag. I mean, Biden pick a side. But if things get really bad, it looks like Israel is going to be overrun, America will step in just for the reason so Israel does not have to use nukes. That's a preemptive thing to avoid World War III. What do you think? It's not over yet. It may be just beginning. Hopefully, cooler heads will prevail, but I doubt it, because when your back's against the wall and you have no place to go, you will defend yourself bitterly to the last woman and the last man. Believe me, Israel will. They will never, ever go through what happened in Europe during World War II ever again. Make no mistake. Until the next time, God bless, goodbye, and good luck.